My wife said, "It's just one night. I just want to feel like a woman. Our sex life is trash." Before we begin our story, I'd like to ask you to please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Your support really motivates me to create more stories. Let's get started. My name is Aaron, and I'm at a crossroads in my life. As I lay in bed, I felt the familiar weight of the distance between me and Lisa. She had slipped under the covers without a word, her back turned towards me, mirroring my own retreat to the edge of the mattress. Even though there were only a couple of feet separating us, it felt like an insurmountable chasm. The morning routine came and went, silent and unremarkable, as we both prepared for the day without exchanging so much as a glance. Once Lisa left for work, I took a moment to breathe, clutching a list in my hands. I had taken today and Monday off, needing time to figure out the next steps. I wandered through each room in our house, capturing the essence of our life together with my camera. Every corner held memories. The laughter, the quiet moments, the love we had built. I meticulously documented the contents of each space, noting what I wanted to keep. I couldn't bring myself to open the wedding album that lay on the coffee table, its pages filled with the best moments of our lives. Instead, I downloaded all our family photos from the cloud onto a flash drive, hoping to preserve them without the bittersweet pain of revisiting them just yet. I knew the apartments I had seen were nice, but they could never replace this home. The memories were etched in the walls, and leaving it all behind felt unbearable. I would miss Lisa, the woman who still had my heart despite everything. Later that day, I met with Linda Morrison, a divorce attorney recommended by a friend. She was straightforward and pragmatic, presenting a settlement that seemed almost too simple. Lisa would take the house and her retirement savings, while I would keep our cabin in the woods along with my retirement funds. I would pay off her car and clear the credit card debts. We decided to allocate a portion of our investments for the kids' college tuition and establish a $10,000 fund for charitable donations before splitting the rest down the middle. After reviewing the settlement proposal, I nodded absently, unable to articulate my thoughts. Linda suggested we could file the necessary paperwork on Wednesday, and I stood up, shook her hand, and left the office. I could tell she had noticed my silence. All our interactions had been through emails, and I sensed a hint of concern in her eyes. Sometimes I wondered what drew her to family law in the first place. I made my way to the bank, where I opened a new account, transferring half of our joint funds into it. I quickly emailed the HR department to change my direct deposit details. Later, I planned to set up my payments to funnel into this new account. Next, I visited our investment banker, who confirmed that all our accounts would require both of our signatures for any transfers. I informed him that Linda would be placing a freeze on those accounts once Lisa was served the divorce papers. The pity in my advisor's eyes was hard to ignore. It hit me that soon, many more people would wear that same expression when the news spread. The thought of having to explain this to my children was almost paralyzing. Meanwhile, Lisa tried her best to avoid meeting Steve Reed at work. During lunch, they ended up at Jake's Bistro, the little eatery they had dubbed their favorite spot. She felt an overwhelming sense of unease, as if the walls were closing in on her. Steve, oblivious to her tension, was buzzing with excitement. "I can't wait for this weekend. The hotel check-in is at 3 p.m. Do you think we could meet a bit earlier?" As she looked into his eager face, a wave of anxiety washed over her. Did he even realize the storm brewing in her life? The disconnect between her heart and her reality felt more pronounced than ever. "Maybe we could have some fun in the room before going to dinner," Steve suggested, his voice dripping with enthusiasm. "I don't think so," Lisa replied curtly, not bothering to hide her discomfort. Back at the office, she attempted to focus on her tasks, but her mind was elsewhere, racing with anxiety. Every now and then, she felt the weight of eyes upon her, as if one or more of her colleagues were reporting back to Aaron. After a couple of unproductive hours, she decided to call it a day and left the office. As she walked down the hallway, she spotted 2 new interns from her department. She stopped for a moment to exchange pleasantries, but her gaze caught the distinctive logo of Central Logistics emblazoned on one of their sweatshirts. A knot formed in her stomach, a reminder of Aaron's presence looming in her life like a dark cloud. Meanwhile, Aaron had completed the tasks on his list. It was 2 p.m., and hunger pangs reminded him he hadn't eaten all day. He decided to grab a bite at Maria's cafe. As he sat down at a table, the owner, Maria, approached him with her usual warmth and gave him a hug. "Hey Aaron, it's good to see you. How have you been?" she asked, her smile brightening his mood just a little. "I've been okay, just busy with everything. How's your son doing?" "He's doing great. He made the baseball team as a freshman and is over the moon about it. You know, your son was an incredible training partner for him this winter. He really made a difference," Maria said, her eyes sparkling with pride. "Glad to hear that. James is thrilled that his roommate will be on the team with him," Aaron replied, feeling a pang of nostalgia for simpler times. Maria sat down next to him, her expression shifting. "We're here for lunch, but things aren't looking too great for Lisa. She seems really nervous lately. Of course, Steve doesn't seem to pick up on it. He might be clueless, but it sounds like he's planning to sleep with her this weekend." Aaron felt a wave of sadness wash over him. "Don't be too quick to give up on her," Maria said gently. "She must be a special woman for you to have been married for so long. I'm sure she'll realize her mistake. I just hope it happens sooner rather than later." Aaron managed a small smile. "Thanks, Maria. I appreciate that. So, how about those crab cakes with broccoli?" "That sounds perfect, and maybe surprise me with a light beer this time," he added, finally feeling a glimmer of cheer. Back at home, Lisa came in earlier than usual, her mind racing with plans. She wanted to execute her backup strategy perfectly. Tonight, she would cook Aaron's favorite meal in hopes of rekindling their connection. As the Maryland crab cakes baked in the oven, she changed into a dress that made her feel confident and appealing. It was crucial that he accepted her proposal for a date, but even if he declined, she needed him to understand her perspective. After her transformation, she took a deep breath and headed to her closet, pulling out the new clothes she had hidden away along with the Victoria's Secret bags. Carefully, she placed them in the trunk of her car, determined not to embarrass either Aaron or herself by revealing them in front of him. Aaron arrived home at his usual time, pleasantly surprised by the enticing aroma of dinner wafting through the house. When he walked into the living room, Lisa handed him a bottle of light beer. "Please take off your jacket and tie and have a seat. Dinner will be on the table in a couple of minutes." As he sat down and took in the sight of the crab cakes and steamed broccoli, a bittersweet realization hit him. While he was glad to see his favorite meal prepared with care, he would have preferred the casual comfort of Maria's cafe at that moment. In truth, he would rather be anywhere but here, in this home filled with echoes of a love that seemed to be fading. They ate in silence, the atmosphere thick with unspoken words. Lisa, determined to break the silence, took a deep breath and attempted once more to express her feelings. "Aaron, I love you, and I just hope you understand why I feel I need to do this." "Lisa?" he interrupted, his voice firm yet pained. "I understand. You look very nice today, by the way. Are you going somewhere?" "Yes, I'm going to meet Janice and Lisa for a few drinks later this evening, but I'm trying to tell you that I love you, and I'm hoping you'll—" Yes, you're hoping," he cut in again, the frustration evident in his tone. The weight of their situation hung heavily in the air, and neither knew how to bridge the chasm that had grown between them. "I understand," I said coldly, my voice lacking any warmth. "I really do understand." I pushed my plate away and stood up, feeling a wave of nausea wash over me. "I've lost my appetite." As I walked away, I added bitterly, "You look very nice for him. I guess you couldn't wait until tomorrow to see David Summers." With that, I disappeared into the living room, letting the sound of the TV drown out the pain that echoed through the dining room. I could hear Lisa's silence behind me, and as I sank into the couch, I could feel the weight of the situation pressing down on me like an anvil. I sat there for a long while, the glow of the television flickering on my face, but my mind was far from the scenes playing out on the screen. For the first time, I seriously reconsidered my actions. I pulled my knees to my chest, resting my forehead against them. What was I doing? The truth was like a blade, cutting deeper every second. Eventually, I stood up and cleared the table, forcing myself to act. Now was not the time to hesitate. I needed to stay true to my feelings, however misguided they might be. I pulled out my phone and texted Janice, "We can meet earlier. I'm leaving in 5 minutes." Just as I sent the message, I heard the front door open and close. Aaron was still at the table, nursing his beer. I finished mine and stared blankly at the television, realizing I hadn't registered a single thing for the past 20 minutes. A deep sadness settled over me, pressing heavily on my chest, making it hard to breathe. In a moment of desperation, I pulled a small box from my coat pocket, fished out 2 pills, and swallowed them dry, washing them down with the dregs of my beer. I had never taken sleeping pills before, but tonight I knew I needed the help. I wouldn't be able to face the reality of the coming days without some sort of reprieve. Saturday morning would demand all my strength, and I wasn't ready to face it yet. At the bar, I was the first to arrive and managed to secure a table for 3. While I waited, I took in the scene around me. Men and women danced, their movements dripping with seduction, but to me it felt like a dance of desperation and loneliness. Was this my fate? My thoughts spiraled until Janice and Lisa arrived, pulling me out of my dark reverie. The moment they approached the table, I braced myself for the storm I knew was coming. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" Lisa blurted out as soon as she sat down. "Are you out of your mind? You're gonna cheat on your husband with some jerk from work? Are you going through menopause? Or did you start taking drugs? Or did you fall and hit your head? This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard from anyone. I used to think you were one of the smartest people I knew. If you go through with this, you must be the dumbest fool I've ever met." I took a deep breath, fighting to keep my composure. "And a good evening to you too, Lisa." "Yes, I'm doing fine. And how about you?" Lisa just stared at me, disbelief etched across her face. I could see the anger and pain in her eyes. I turned to Janice. "Your turn." Janice shook her head slowly. "You know how I feel about this little adventure of yours. I would say more, but I'm afraid I can't be as polite as Lisa." I managed a sad smile. "You think you could curse better than Lisa?" Janice replied without missing a beat. "Well, no one can swear better than Lisa, but she missed a few important words. Fool, cheater, adulterer, idiot, and perhaps the worst disappointment of all. But there's one thing I really need to say to you. I think you're about to make the biggest mistake of your life. But I love you, and we'll be here to help you no matter what you do." Lisa crossed her arms and shook her head. Damn. What you're planning to do is so wrong and so stupid. But I'll be here for you too. Just so you know, I'll be saying 'I told you so' over and over again." I hugged my friends tightly, feeling the warmth of their support despite the weight of their words. "Thank you for your love. I know you can't support what I'm doing, but it's wonderful to know that I can count on both of you." The evening had only just begun, and I could feel the tension in the air. With my friends at my side, I tried to shake off the doubts gnawing at me. It was time to face the music, but deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was standing on the precipice of something irrevocable. You both know that I don't do anything halfway. I've made a commitment, and now I need to see it through to its natural conclusion," I said, trying to sound resolute despite the gnawing doubts in my mind. Lisa gently pleaded. "Diana, there's nothing natural about cheating. Committing to infidelity is the opposite of what commitment truly means." I sat quietly for a few moments, letting her words sink in. I felt the weight of their concern, but a stubborn determination surged within me. "I need to finish my preparations for tomorrow. I'll bring a bottle of wine. Please stay and have a drink for me." With that, I stood up and gathered my things, leaving the table behind. I could sense their disappointment, but I couldn't dwell on it. I completed my errands quickly, driving home in a daze. The house was dark and silent when I arrived, the stillness amplifying the turmoil in my mind. I gathered my thoughts and sent Janice a long text message. I knew she was angry with me, but I also trusted that she would support me in the end. As I opened the trunk of my car, the reality of my purchases hit me. I couldn't leave them in the car overnight. They would be too cold to wear in the morning. So I hid them in the closet in the downstairs hallway, tucking the bags away as if they were secrets I could conceal. With my heart racing, I slipped into bed next to Aaron, but sleep evaded me. Around 3 a.m., I finally gave up on sleep and crept downstairs. The wedding album sat on the coffee table, and for a fleeting moment, I felt a pang of nostalgia. If Aaron could look at it, then so could I. I opened it, flipping through the pages filled with memories of laughter, love, and dreams shared. But after 2 pages, I closed it, overwhelmed by a wave of sadness, tears streaming down my cheeks. I had to make him understand. At 5 a.m., I conceded to the fact that I would not sleep that night. I went to the bathroom for a shower, the warm water enveloping me like a comforting embrace. Afterward, I slipped into some lingerie from Victoria's Secret, feeling a mix of excitement and guilt. I opened the garment bag and pulled out the beautiful outfit I had chosen for tonight. Once I finished packing, I grabbed the suitcase I had set aside earlier and took it to the car. I placed the Victoria's Secret bag next to it, both representing a future I was desperately trying to grasp. In the kitchen, I penned a short note to Aaron, a smirk creeping onto my face as I realized I was leaving him a Dear John letter. I placed the note on the coffee maker, turned off the light, and stepped outside, determined to finish what I had started. When Aaron woke up, he squinted at the clock. It was 6:15 a.m. The bed felt emptier than usual, and he turned over to find it cold. A sinking feeling crept into his stomach. Had she not waited until tonight? He felt a sickening dread wash over him as the thought of her with David Summers crossed his mind. The image struck him hard. Her lying in another man's bed, and he felt hollow inside. For the first time, he questioned himself. Should he have just allowed her one night to experience another man? She had promised to belong only to him, and the weight of that promise felt heavy. Had he lost the love of his life because of his own ego and pride? He realized he could never love her again if she chose to be with David Summers. Over the years he had seen her put their children first, and he had admired her for it. That was what a mother should do. But he could never reconcile the thought of her placing another man above her husband. After 22 years, they had both earned each other's respect and loyalty. She expected nothing less, and he would accept nothing less. Aaron hoped she was still at home, maybe sleeping in one of the other bedrooms. He checked each room, but found no trace of her. The house felt emptier than ever. Entering the kitchen, he spotted a note on the coffee maker. His heart raced as he opened it and read her short message. Please understand. Collapsing back onto one of the kitchen chairs, Aaron's resolve shattered, and he began to cry. He had feared this moment, but deep down, he still expected her to stay, to forget this crazy idea and remain his wife. After brewing a fresh pot of coffee, he trudged upstairs to shower and dress. Quickly, he stuffed a duffel bag with some clothes and headed back downstairs, his mind racing with thoughts of how to salvage the remnants of their life together. He filled his thermos with coffee, every sip burning with regret, and then walked to the front door, feeling lost and uncertain about what lay ahead. This was not how their story was supposed to end. I took one last, long look at the house that had been my home before stepping toward the front door. The familiar creaks of the floorboards beneath my feet felt oddly comforting, but I knew it was time to leave. With a deep breath, I turned off the lights and closed the door behind me. The cold morning air hit my face as I descended the steps, a brisk reminder that the world continued outside my personal storm. I had forgotten to start the car, but I thought the chill might help wake me up. Perhaps shake off the numbness I was feeling. As I walked toward my car, I realized the engine was running. When I opened the back door to toss my duffel bag inside, my heart stopped. There, nestled in the passenger seat, was a suitcase and a Victoria's Secret bag, and in the driver's seat, Diana was asleep. I closed the back door quietly, my heart racing as I reached for the door handle. Tears of joy filled my eyes at the sight of my wife, my love. This was it. We had a chance. Taking a deep breath, I opened the car door. The gentle creak stirred Diana, and she rubbed her eyes before whispering, "Good morning." "Good morning," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. After a brief pause, I asked, "How long have you been here?" She glanced at the clock and said, "About 2 hours. I couldn't sleep, and I got worried that you'd leave without me, so I decided to wait in the car. I filled up the tank and bought us a dozen Krispy Kreme cream-filled donuts for the road." I opened the box of donuts and frowned. "There are only 7 donuts here." Diana, now fully awake, replied with a grin, A dozen was for the both of us, and I've already eaten my share. I grabbed one of the donuts and let it melt in my mouth, savoring the sweetness. This should hold me over until we have breakfast at Virginia's diner. How about their country ham and biscuits with gravy? Diana shook her head. I'm not dressed to go to Virginia's diner. Diana, Virginia's diner doesn't have a dress code. You can wear anything you want there. She smiled knowingly. I know you can wear almost anything, but you can't wear almost nothing. With that, she opened her coat to reveal a stunning purple lingerie set beneath. Well, that's almost nothing, I agreed, unable to hide my grin. Is the coat new? I asked. Yes, she replied, beaming. I traded the dress for this gorgeous coat. And in case you didn't check the Victoria's Secret bag, I returned the other lingerie and bought these just for you. Diana placed her hand on my chin and lifted my head so I could look into her eyes. This outfit, and the body beneath it, are for your eyes and your eyes only, for all the days and nights of our lives. After a brief pause, she continued, I'm sorry for the hell I put you through these past few months. You were right about almost everything. There were only two things you were wrong about. Last night, I dressed for you and no one else, and I really did meet with Janice and Lisa. I listened intently as she took a breath, preparing for what came next. The second thing you were wrong about is that when we were making love, I wasn't thinking about David. David never entered our bedroom. I didn't close my eyes to think of him. I couldn't look you in the eyes because I was so ashamed of what I was planning to do. I'm ashamed to admit that the shame I felt didn't stop me from planning to be with him. As she looked at me, her voice dropped to a whisper. Now I truly understand. Without thinking, I leaned in and kissed her. We had so much to talk about, and a mountain of work ahead to rebuild our marriage, but my heart leaped with joy when I realized that she finally understood. As we drove past Virginia's diner, I glanced at her. She had fallen asleep again shortly after we hit the highway, and I couldn't help but smile at her peaceful expression. My thoughts drifted back to everything that had transpired, and I felt a pang of nostalgia mixed with regret. I remembered that evening 7 years ago, sitting in a hotel room in San Francisco for a quarterly corporate meeting. At the time, I was the department head, and my venture had brought tremendous success to the company. Foreign companies were buying up American competitors left and right, but I saw an intriguing opportunity. I had advocated for the acquisition of an Italian company that boasted excellent engineers, but was mired in serious financial problems. It was a bold move, but one I believed in deeply. The company was full of potential, just like my marriage. Both needed nurturing, focus, and, most importantly, trust. But I couldn't shake the feeling that while I had chased business success, I had allowed my personal life to stagnate. Driving down the quiet highway, I felt the weight of those memories of past mistakes and the promise of a new beginning. Diana was right next to me, and the road ahead felt uncertain but hopeful. We had a long way to go, but as long as we traveled together, maybe, just maybe, we could find our way back to each other. As I drove, I reflected on the twists and turns my life had taken over the years. My mentor, the CEO, had approved the acquisition of that Italian company, which turned out to be a monumental success. The deal brought in several teams of experienced engineers and opened doors to the European market, not to mention a strong presence in China. It was a move that would ultimately generate billions, becoming the crowning achievement of the CEO's career. Because of that success, I found myself on the fast track to an accelerated corporate career. That evening, while I was celebrating with my coworkers, Diana was back home in Virginia, watching our boys participate in a school orchestra concert. As I raised my glass to toast our success, I felt a pang of longing for her. I wanted to share these moments with her, but instead, I found myself caught in the buzz of the corporate party. Among the attendees was Debbie Maris, a beautiful marketing representative from another division with whom I had developed a long-standing, flirtatious relationship. As the night wore on, I drank just enough to lower my inhibitions, but not enough to cloud my judgment. We danced much closer than a married man should, with anyone but his wife, the tension thick in the air. Debbie snuggled against my leg, and before I knew it, she had slipped her panties into my open palm. In a daze, we headed for her room. the thrill of the chase consuming my thoughts. In the elevator, we kissed and explored each other. Debbie's hands roamed over my body, and when she dropped her blouse, my desire surged. I watched as she unbuttoned her skirt and beckoned me with a sultry smile, standing naked in the doorway. But as I stepped closer, an unfamiliar sensation gripped me. For the first time in several hours, I felt a profound reluctance to enter that room. My mind flashed to Diana and the beautiful family I had back home. I realized then that I didn't want to throw away everything I had built with her. I stepped back 2 paces, then literally ran, back to the elevator. I locked myself in my room and took a long shower, desperately trying to wash away the scent of Debbie, the memory of temptation lingering in my mind. It was 1 a.m. back in Richmond when I finally called Diana. I needed to hear her voice. When she sleepily answered, I assured her that I was okay and that nothing bad had happened. I shared the good news about my successful venture and my promotion, along with a significant salary increase. As I spoke, I could hear her excitement on the other end of the line, and it made my heart swell. She told me how proud she was of me and how she had always believed in my success. As tears streamed down my face, I realized I had almost shared one of the greatest moments of my life with the wrong woman. Diana's opinion and happiness were what mattered most to me. I knew I had to tell her everything. I had to make her understand why I truly empathized with her feelings. I had been in her shoes, grappling with temptation and longing. Once she was fully back with our family emotionally, David Summers would no longer hold any interest for either of us. Meanwhile, David found himself sitting alone in Fred Davis's office at Richards & Sons. Fred was the vice president of human resources, and David had been summoned there early that Monday morning. Confusion washed over him as he tried to piece together why he was in this meeting. Sure, he had missed a couple of deadlines while pursuing Diana, but he felt confident he could catch up quickly. But that morning was more disruptive than he anticipated. He needed to talk to Diana about what had transpired over the weekend. Not only had she set him up, but she had also sent her friends, Janice and Lisa, to confront him. He remembered the terrifying encounter with Lisa, whose father had served 25 years in the Navy. Even he seemed tame compared to her. The humiliation he felt that day in the lobby of the Jefferson Hotel still stung. Even the hotel security had seemed too intimidated to intervene. As David turned to head back to his seat, he froze when he spotted a family portrait on Fred's desk. It was a picture of Fred, his 3 sons, and his smiling wife. Suddenly, the last name of the woman who had so thoroughly berated him clicked into place. Lisa Davis. Understanding flooded him as he grasped the implications of his situation. I drove on, determined to mend the fissures that had formed between Diana and me. I had faced my own demons, and it was time for us to reconcile. If we could overcome this turbulence together, I believed we could emerge stronger than ever. I just hoped she would be willing to meet me halfway. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss our next video. See you next time.